It's a very sunny and breezy day here in Jeju-do, and I am here at probably my favourite beach here on this island, Gwangchigi, and I think it's very obvious as to why it's my favourite. Behind me is Songsan Il-chulbong, or otherwise known as the famous sunrise peak here in Jeju, as the sun rises right behind those cliffs every single day. Gwangchigi Beach is one of the popular viewing points to come and see the sunrise, as it looks directly across the ocean towards the peak. Not only that, when the tide is low, all of these incredibly green, moss-covered rocks are revealed, and it makes for some interesting compositions. As this is more of a sunrise location, I will be coming back here in the morning. I'm very aware that compositions, especially on a beach like this, can change, especially with the tide coming in and out. So I will need to come fairly early in the morning. But for now, I'm just going to take a look up and down this beach, and I'm going to take a look at these incredible rock formations and see what catches my eye. I set off exploring the beach and had so much fun darting around all the rock pools, and there were so many interesting formations. I was having so much fun that I almost forgot that I had come out in search of landscape photography. I even got distracted by the shells washed up on the beach. It was such a shame that the light was so harsh and contrasty, and that the sky was cloudless, otherwise I'd have probably taken a few shots. Unfortunately, the conditions were not quite right. But satisfied and with boots filled with sand, I was excited for the sunrise the next morning. As predicted, most of it is underwater. So I'm having to think very fast. The light is coming up fast. We've got some great colour, it's beautiful, and I'm feeling pressured to set my camera up somewhere. And I don't want to settle for something okay, something average. Surprisingly, this long green walkway is kind of still here. And so I'm taking a look around here right now to see what I can find. Maybe use some of these pools. Oh geez, this isn't gonna work. We're gonna get very wet if we stay here. I'm very worried about this tide coming in a bit further and washing me away, which it is, it's coming in. Nice wet feet is what we love in the morning. So the tide just came in very strong and completely covered everything. All of the rock pools that I was standing on are now pretty much underwater, and the sun is just coming up right now. Okay. Right, let's go. I ran up and down that beach, searching while the sun rose for a good composition, and perhaps the panic of running out of time blinded me to a potential spot, but I absolutely tried hard to rescue the morning. Unable to find a composition I was happy with before the sun rose too high into the sky, I then realized it was just too late. I'm feeling very bitter. Oh my goodness, no. What a disaster. So the sea completely obliterated my composition. And as it did, and as I got back onto the sand, the sun started to rise. And I didn't have a backup composition, which is probably my own fault, but the conditions changed so quickly. And I just wasn't able to find something fast enough. And so I didn't take a picture. But I'm disappointed. I'm bitter. This morning has not gone how I wished it to go. And yesterday everything was just so beautiful, and yeah. But this is photography, you don't know what's going to happen. Because conditions change, the landscape changes, and if you don't keep up with it, you fall flat like I have today. My Gwangchigi beach sunrise shoot did not go to plan. I don't want to give myself excuses, and I do accept that I messed up this shoot. I just wasn't on top of my game. I wasn't fast enough, and sometimes it happens, and I'm going to take that experience and try not to repeat it in the future. I did actually go back to Gwangchigi Beach later on in the day. I noticed that clouds were invading the sky and they were traveling directly towards the mountain over Gwangchigi Beach. At this point, I admit I was probably a little desperate and quite peeved that I still hadn't got an image. And I ended up taking a couple of images. So I want to take a quick look at these two images, and I've got them up on my screen here in Photoshop. The idea of the composition was that we had the mountain in the background. What I was really drawn to was the foreground of the image. So what you can see are these incredible lines and textures etched into the sand by the sea, and I found that extremely interesting. But we've got this big white space of water, this big pool of water in between some of the rocks, and it doesn't do anything for the image. There's not a huge amount of interest happening in that space. It's water that's not got a huge amount of contrast or texture. The light is just very flat. So this image to me is not composed very well. So this is the second image. Again, in the foreground, I've got some of these lines and textures. So I moved the tripod and my camera, I believe, further forward, which cropped off some of this big pool of water, which doesn't make this such a big waste of space. The sky actually started to clear again very slightly, and so I have a break in the clouds and you can see a bit of blue sky in there. The mountain in the background also had a bit more light on it, and so you can see a little more colour. The light everywhere else is still quite flat. So in this bottom left corner of the image, the sand just looks very disrupted, and that's because a lot of people were walking back and forth across the sand. There were footprints everywhere, and it was very difficult to avoid the footprints. Maybe not something you'd notice straight away, but on close inspection of the image, it just doesn't look polished. It's a much better image than the first one I took, however, I'm still just not that fond of it. My main issue with this whole location was the first day that I went to take a look. I had created these extremely high expectations for myself of what I wanted to come away with. It's a good thing to plan a shoot and get an idea of what you want to achieve, but if you give yourself too many expectations, then you're just kind of setting yourself up to fail, and you almost tunnel vision onto one particular thing, and you don't necessarily leave yourself any room to adapt if things go wrong. I know I did come away with this image here, but I'm not particularly too fussed about it. So I wonder if it would have been easier to get over the disappointment of not getting any images at all, and I perhaps should have left it on the third day, or the disappointment that I have with this very average, mediocre image that I have. Maybe I'll look at it in a couple of weeks' time and like it a little more, but for now, it was a tough shoot. It was a tough couple of days. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and thank you for watching.